Mantis, take away. Mantis, take away. Let's try it again. Hi. Take. Beautiful. Okay. So that means good day, my people, in the first language of South Africa called Khoi Goba. Okay. Today I'm going to tell you a story called The Mantis and the Moon. Have you heard it before? No. The Mantis and the Moon. Okay. Let's see. Okay. Lang geleden. A long time ago. We're talking so long ago. We're talking about the ancestors of the sun, the first people. Now, in those days, everything was sort of, shall we say, interchangeable. Everything, the animals were as people, and the people were as animals, and the trees and everything could speak. Everything was in great harmony, right? There was a king praying mantis, Hagen. And the praying mantis made himself a beautiful pair of veldskoen. So he made it with the leather veldskoen. And when he was done with the shoes, he actually realized that the shoe on the right-hand side was a little bit too tight, too small. So he instructed his daughter, the praying mantis, also. He called his daughter and he said, "My daughter, please take this veldskoen down to the river and soak it in there overnight so that it can give a little bit and fit better." So beautifully, his daughter goes down to the river and she puts the shoe in the river. And she goes and she plays, leaving it overnight. But in the river lives the big water snake. And the big water snake gets upset with the praying mantis king and goes, "How dare the praying mantis king put his dirty shoe in my waters?" So he was upset that the dirty shoe was now in his waters. And now the big water snake could control all the waters. And so he froze over the entire river. The next day, when the daughter of the praying mantis king came back, she found the river was frozen over with the shoe inside. She's like, "Oh, my dad is going to be so upset." She takes a stone tool that looks like a knife, and she makes a cut. Picks it up and takes the big block of ice back to her father. The king mantis, Hagen, sees the block of ice and he's so upset about his new shoe. He takes the block of ice and goes, and there the block of ice stays. The block of ice becomes known as the moon. And in those days, there was only the sun in the sky. So when people saw the big block of ice that was now the moon, they rejoiced. And they were like, "Ah!" They celebrated around the fire. see at night. And they didn't, because before they just went to sleep because it was too dangerous to stay awake at night. They couldn't see as good as animals. Too many dangers. So now they could see and they could go hunting, all that. So people rejoiced, right? The problem is, the sun was jealous. Because the sun wanted to be the only sun, the only light in the sky. So, every day, the sun shoots its rays at the block of ice, melting the moon, little by little by little. And so the people saw this and they said, what's happening to our moon? What's happening to our light at night? And the moon, remember, everything could talk. The moon said, don't worry, my people. I'm not dying. I'm just being reborn. And just like me, if you follow my rhythms, you can just be reborn. You never have to die. And so, in those days, very, very early days, long, long ago, there was no such a thing as death because people stayed in harmony with nature and with the rhythms of the moon. So the time went by. One day, the moon hears a sound coming from the veld. The moon looks down. What's wrong, my child? My mom is dead! This little boy says from the field. The moon says, don't worry about it. Your mom is just sleeping. There is no such thing as death. A second time, the moon hears, What's wrong, my child? My mom is dead! She's not breathing! Again, the moon says, don't worry, my child. Your mom is just resting. A third time, the moon hears, and this time, the child says, my mom is not breathing and all the fire has left her body. Now, the moon gets upset. And remember, in those days, everything could shift shapes, eh? So the moon reaches down and goes, and smacked the boy right across his face. And the boy got such a fright, he turned straight into a rabbit and scampered off into the field. Then the moon was very upset. So the moon said, because of you and not listening to me and not following my rhythms, you will be cursed to die. And so, have you ever looked at the full moon?
Yes.
What do you see when you see the full moon?
It's a circle.
Yeah, and then do you see anything in the full moon?
Yes.
What?
Cheese.
Cheese?
It's like there's a person inside.
Ah, okay.
It's like a spice.
A rabbit.
I heard something here. A rabbit. Yeah. So, what happened is, I want to ask you to look at the full moon again. You can even see it tonight if you want to. If you look again, there's an image of a little rabbit in the moon. You can see its little ears and its body like this. The rabbit has been put there in the moon to remind us to follow the rhythms of the moon and stay in touch with nature. Okay? If we remember the rhythms of nature, we can always be reborn. And that is the story of the praying mantis and the moon.